Be live in about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, however long it takes me to make a tea. show going.
Welcome to the Tea Party with Marty Abernathy, a show by an ultra-feminine, meek, shy, totally unopinionated trans woman that seeks to listen to both sides and does not make fun of TERFs. You've listened to the show, right? You still want me to say this? Okay. Here's your host, Marty Abernathy.
Oh, hello everyone. I need to do this transition myself because I put it in the wrong mode. Apparently it won't work if it's in studio mode. Welcome to the show, everyone. Welcome to the Tea Party. My skills at getting ready at the last minute are still pretty good. Although I just noticed some tapes coming off one of my cameras. Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm seeing things. Anyways, thank you for coming to the show. Thank you for listening. If you want to help out the show, you can go to teapartypodcast.com. That's what you had to wait on. I hope everyone's having a good night, having a good Saturday evening. I know I am. I went out shopping today, got a lot of stuff done. One thing I realized is that so many people are not wearing masks anymore. And I don't give a shit. To be honest with you, I'm going to continue to wear mask. Because, I mean, to me it's like one of the things that the Asian community made me realize is they've been wearing masks in America and in the UK for a long time. Or I'd see them, but usually it was only people that appeared to be Asian were the ones that were wearing the masks. And I was like, when I came over here in 2016, I got the flu really bad, and I had some masks from back in the States, and I was sick and I needed to go to the store, and I was just like, so I put the mask on, and you would have think I had a turd on my face, but now I understand why it's like that. Because literally British people, no, they just don't do the whole mask thing. And I'm just like the whole time I was out today, I saw one person wearing a mask, and that person was working in Wilco, which is a small shop. Well, not a small shop, but it's in American terms, it would be, I'm trying to think, like a Target, or maybe I'm trying to think something along Big Lots, something along that line. And I was shocked because I guess I'm the only one. I'm not so worried about COVID, but I'm not gonna get the flu. I work in a hospital, so we're still masking up, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. So anyways, if you want to help the show, you can become a patron, just like David Skog and some random geek. Neither are that are in the chat today, but that's okay because they help the show. So Oh my God, I got hair in my mouth. Can't have that. So let's get on with the show. Shall we? Let's play some content. Hello there. Put me in a little tiny box. I like it. So, I purposely, I don't know if y'all came here from seeing the thumbnail that I did. Let's look. No, I don't want it the Jimmy Dore show. No. Oh, well, everyone will get COVID. He's still doing COVID. Jesus Christ, man. Get a fucking new routine, dude. Seriously. No. Go to my channel. Okay. Now I'm going to stop this real quick. All right. Thank you. I was still back in Jimmy Dore. So, neat. No. You can't see it. Where is it? I guess I can do it this way. Boop, 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 boop. So this is what I put up. Oh, stop, Instagram. So this is the actual thing I put up for the show tonight. And I did this on purpose. Domestic work is work. And the reason I did that was because I'm going to feature some videos about sex work. And you'll see the correlation here in just a moment.
Why? It's misogyny for me.
It says, I watched it more as he was concerned for her situation. And this is talking about a stripper rather than just seeing her as an object.
Why are you assuming that he was concerned for her situation? He's gone to a strip club, he's watching a dancer on the stage and noticed that she has children. So, can you unpick that? Because I think you need to really unpick that. Why would he go to a cafe for a late night coffee and look at a young woman who was tired and notice that she, I don't know, had a photo of a child or something? Would he then worry her kids were safe because she was working late at night? Why specifically a stripper? Is that because his general feeling is that you can only be a stripper if your worth in society is so low you're unable to keep? This is something I really feel very passionate about. I really do. We stigmatise sex work because of patriarchy. Sex work in and of itself is a perfectly good and valid job. How much sex would exist if we didn't live in a heavily patriarchal society? I don't know, and there's no way of knowing. But just remember, I do a job that even on this app, you see women who are basically in slavery for. They have to give up their passports. I pick and choose my customers. I make sure I like all of them, and I enjoy it. Come on, honey, let's go for a walk. Don't you want to go for a walk?
She's walking her dog.
And I feel really strongly about this. The reason we have always put sex and sex work into a special category is because of patriarchy. Because when men have sex with women, those women can bear children. That's the only reason. That's the only reason that this is in a special category. And it's been like that for many, many years. 100 years ago, a woman could be put out on the streets for having a child when she was not legally married to the father. Denied everything. This is all, every scrap of it, because of the patriarchy. As soon as you take the stigma out of sex work, just say she's a cleaner, like I am. Every time you see the word sex work or stripper or whatever, take it out and put cleaner. in, and then see how much the attitude that society holds towards sex work is affecting the thinking of people towards sex work of any description. It's a difficult job, and it's certainly not one that is not glamorous, and no, it's not glamorous. Anyone who thinks differently needs to take a really good hard look at it and take out that stigma about sex and sex work, compare it to domestic work, and then have a look and see how your attitudes hold up. And the answer is they really, really don't.
And I think Anne, who is a domestic worker, puts it right on the money. And she did another video on this as well. She did
Right,
3.
I'll rattle through this quickly. Number one, their bodies aren't sold. They retain their bodies. What they're doing is charging by the hour for other people to interact with them. First thing. Second thing, the reason that people have problems and sex workers are trafficked and enslaved is not to do with the work itself. It is to do with the stigma it has in society, which is down to patriarchal attitudes about women and sex. Because women who have sex with random men can have a child, and the child might not necessarily know who its father is the argument which falls flat now because of modern contraception. I'm not saying that the way sex workers act now is good at all, but I compare it to my own job, which in very many parts of the world, women are still trafficked and enslaved to do. They are not valued. They are considered the lowest of the low in society, and there is shame and stigma associated with being a cleaner. But because we have lost that stigma in our society, I am able to be proud of a job that I do that is not easy and not for everybody.
I think she makes an awesome point about this.
We absolutely are. And the stigma is to do with women and sex, because if we do not have this weird morality about sex, can somebody please explain to me why women who are raped are meant to feel ashamed of being raped? They didn't do anything. They were assaulted. Rape is physical assault. And yet, women who are raped are deeply, deeply conditioned to feel shame about that rape and will conceal it because they feel shame about it. If they were walking down the street and somebody punched them in the face and broke their arm, they wouldn't feel ashamed of it, would they? They would immediately report it to the police, and everyone around them would report it to the police. Oh my God, that's awful, I don't understand it. But the minute it comes to rape, all of a sudden, oh, here we come, the shame thing. Women are conditioned from birth to believe that men have the gatekeeping of their sexuality.
And Lauren from Gotham Shitty talks about this as well.
So when it comes to feminism, one of the most controversial topics of discussion is sex work. This is something that stands at the center of heated debates in feminist circles, both in real life and online. I mean, on my personal Twitter timeline, people seem to go back and forth on this topic every week. There's a lot of passion behind people's feelings and opinions on it. And there's unfortunately a lot of times where some really bad actors get involved. TERFs, worse, and just plain old puritanical misogynists that hide behind the label of feminist. All of this contention can make it really confusing for feminists who are just approaching this topic. You hear so many different talking points and counter arguments and proposed solutions. It can be difficult to figure out where you stand or even where to begin if you're just trying to learn more. And I personally understand that confusion very well. I've been interested in feminism since I was 15, and I've personally changed my perspective on sex work a handful of times. But if there's something that I'm sure of now that I kind of want to extend as advice to other feminists, it's this. Any principled stance on sex work is primarily formed from the input and perspectives of current sex workers. Because if we want to talk about the issues related to sex work and how to remedy them, it only makes sense to prioritize the voices of those who are actually involved, those who are actually affected by our proposed solutions. Otherwise, we're just engaging in a form of paternalism, which has been proven to be harmful to sex workers. Case in point, the white, Western-led rescue industry. But unfortunately, many feminists have adopted that paternalist position. Way too much of the current feminist discourse surrounding sex work is dominated by people who are not sex workers. Yet they speak so authoritatively on the subject, making sweeping generalizations about the nature of sex work and supporting solutions that only make sense to them. And I've said this before, but I think this is because many of us tend to view sex workers as symbols for, like, the worst of women's oppression. Therefore, anyone who also deals with gender depression has some sort sort of intrinsic understanding of it. White Western feminists also do this sort of thing with Muslim women, but that's a topic for a different day. But that's not true. Sex workers are real people who are directly affected and informed by the material circumstances of being involved in the sex trade. That's not the case for the rest of us. So that's the kind of rule of thumb that I work with. If I see a debate on sex work, I'm going to be listening to the feminists who are actually involved in it, not some 16-year-old rad femme who just read Catherine McKinnon. And no, sex workers are not a monolith. There's plenty of disagreement between them too. But I think something you'll find is that there is a stark contrast between the perspectives and analyses and proposed solutions of sex workers and of those who are not sex workers. When it comes to reading resources, here are my personal favorites, all of which are written by sex workers. Heather Burke in particular has a Twitter account for her sex worker syllabus that has even more recommendations.
I mean, I think the most important point in that is that the people that ought to be talking about this, that ought to be the focus of this, are the people that are, I mean, there's two things to this. And one is sex work and the other one's trafficking. And the two should split off, because when you talk about sex work, it's something that is gone into without coercion, and you can sit there and you can have arguments. Oh, well, if you need it for a job, it's coercion. That is any job. Any job that you take is coercive. And the fact that's capitalism. That's the reality of capitalism. You have to work or you die. That is capitalism. So don't have this argument that, well, sex work is somehow different, because it's not. Exploitation is exploitation. Anyways, Lauren talks about what feminism should be, and I wanted to play that as well because I think it's important.
Feminism inherently is supporting the freedom of women to make choices and decisions about their lives and their bodies.
As each year goes by, I find it increasingly amazing that people still talk about feminism this way, because I feel like we've had this conversation so many times over the past decade at least. Feminism is not about individual choice or personal validation, it's a political movement. Specifically, a movement to liberate women and other gender-oppressed people from capitalist, white supremacist heteropatriarchy. While it is true that feminism does not seek to prevent women from doing things like shaving or being a stay-at-home mom or whatever, it does ask us to meaningfully interrogate the influences and institutions behind those decisions, even if they are freely made. For example, when it comes to shaving, feminism asks us to question why it is that the removal of body hair is such a gendered practice. What kind of beauty standards exist that make it so that women feel like they have to shave in order to feel pretty? How do those beauty standards differently affect the way we view body hair on women of color? And how does all of this tie back into capitalism through things like the pink tax? Framing feminism as uncritical notions of support turns it into an individualist project for self-help and self-affirmation, instead of the mass movement of political struggle that it has been and should be. And it's important to recognize that this concept of choice feminism is actually a fairly recent phenomenon. Some have described it as the result of the neoliberalization of feminism, in which feminism has adopted some of the characteristics of capitalist ideology, specifically hyper-individualism and personal empowerment. This serves as a way to remove the metaphorical teeth of feminism, take what should be a threat towards the system and reorient it towards values that ultimately uphold it. Individualism and personal freedom in the form of choice feminism fit this project perfectly, because it aligns with neoliberal capitalism's ideal self-made subject, who seeks nothing more than to improve her own personal social position and feel good about herself. In this scenario, there's no need for feminism to question the pervasiveness of oppressive institutions in our daily lives, because its entire focus is all about supporting personal decisions. And that's exactly why this issue needs to be called out, critiqued, and overcome. If we are interested in the social meaning of feminist emancipatory potential, if we are to deal with feminism as a collectively oriented movement and political theory, then it becomes clear that feminism is not and cannot be a collection of different, scattered individual positions. The problem we are tackling here is the scope of individualism. If we stick with the descriptive approach to individual experiences and the motto, choose to do whatever you want, it's empowering, then we lose from sight the systemic sources of oppression and the power of articulating socially responsible collective practices as a vehicle for emancipatory potential. After all, we need to remember that in the capitalist mode of production, one's personal freedom often comes at the expense of another's. Here's some further reading on the neoliberalization of feminism. I also have some videos on my page about it if you want to scroll through it.
All right, we just got some spam repeatedly. We're gonna report that pornography spam. Okay. Hide user on the channel. Anyways, annoying that I have to do that, but oh dear, oh dear, fucking spam. To be honest with you, what is the point? What is the fucking point of this? Sorry, I put that up there. But what is the point? I'm actually trying to annoying. Okay, I think well, anyways. Jamie said, "Hi, I'm gay. Online strips without clothing." Exclamation point. Yeah, I don't see the point in that. Like seriously, who in the fuck in the right mind? I mean, even if you're super horny, like is going to respond to this? I don't get it. I don't get it. Like, how is that effective? Like, even if it's a bot, it's a shitty bot. Anyways, I think they knew I was talking about sex work. If you missed it, Jamie J, basically I had Jamie J confirms it. It must be true. I don't get the point. I mean, I could see this if I was on IRC back in 2006. You saw this kind of thing all the time, but literally, like, spend your time focusing on, I don't know, Pornhub instead of YouTube. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyways, spammers don't make sense though. Adam says, "Hello, I am website. Get real follower and make one big money online from your tub." Oh, I'm tempted by that. That's got me. I mean, I want to make money from my tub. Jamie J is asking how horny I was in IRC chats in 2006. We're not going to discuss that. If you want to subscribe, maybe that'll be patron only content. I don't. I did. Let's explore something though. Not that. So, what is it? Internet Archive. Wayback Machine. My personal website used to be genderfucked.com. It's one of the URLs that I really am sad that I gave up. I want to see if I can find a image of it. Let's see. No, that's just another WordPress blog. Let's see if I can find an actual image of it. This makes me sad. But yeah, I did own it. 2004. 2004. Let's see if that didn't work. I want to see it. Anyways, Jamie J said, make one big money online from my tub. Feels like I am the stripper now. Oh, there it is. There it is. This is actually my blog. But like, look how pink that was. Adam wants to sell me a real follower. So yeah, this was yeah. A lot of my it's sad. This was early on in my this is about 3 years out. I started taking hormones in 2001, and I wrote that on her birthday. So anyways. Anyways, that website, man, a lot of pink. And actually, this is I did actually get a kitty. Jamie J said, I am laughing at a hate doc published about me by one of my anti-fans. See, that's the thing, though. On the internet, they're all fans. They're all fans. And look, I was using the .com. It was actually going to Trans Advocate, which is a URL. Yeah. I literally found this on, and I should save it because, it has a link to my MySpace. That is hilarious. Wow. Oh, that's so funny. Anyways, it makes me laugh. Just because Adam Rainstopper said about he also has an anti-fan. Mine literally is pictures of me with a gun in my criminal record. Like, that's doing something. Oh, that kind of shit only bothers people that aren't that are afraid of their past. And Adam, you never struck me as a person that is afraid of their past. But people on the internet can be fucking weird anyways. That brings me to a different subject. So I got into a Twitter Twitterer. Let's see if I can find it. I posted this because I listened to, I don't know if you guys have heard the podcast. It's I Speak German, or I Don't Speak German, with Daniel Harper and Jack Graham. And I said, listening to 97 of I Don't Speak German. The only thing that bothered me was that you don't talk about standing in terms of Sam Harris. After the Ezra Klein light touch interview, I'm not sure how anyone who's not a Sam Harris stan can take him seriously. I'm not saying that the work of Nice Mangoes, if you don't know, Nice Mangoes is a podcaster at Polite Conversations. She does a lot of Sam Harris stuff. I said, I'm not saying the work that Nice Mangoes is doing isn't interesting or helpful. The recent Thomas Smith debate is case in point with that, primarily because of her work. Thomas Smith couldn't deny that Sam Harris did merge with the right. I said, just that these parasocial cheerleaders won't be moved. It would be interesting to hear experts speak on cognitive bias and how standing/people teamify their bigotry. It's an industry of parasitic grifters that inflame already present hatred. And like, I had a friend actually message me about this tweet, and let me see if I can take this off the screen, because what I said to them, I want to repeat, because I think it is they asked me if I was saying that the people that host the show are standing or for Sam Harris, and I said I wouldn't call it standing, more like political reporters not asking obvious questions for fear of losing access. On this one, I was talking about the guys that actually had Sam Harris on their show. They didn't ask the obvious fucking questions. And my whole point was that this I Don't Speak German podcast was going over that. And it's like the stuff that Ina's done literally shows that you don't need to go over this stuff. Sam Harris is obviously a troll, an IDW troll. It's obvious. And I'm gonna play this. Oh, no, I'm not. Let me see if I have it in my links. Oh no, actually. I have it on my playlist. Maybe I have it on my playlist. I hope I have it on my playlist. I don't. Well, I'm going to have to grab it real quick, because this is exactly the point that I'm trying to make. And this comes from the Michael Brooks show.
Okay. Look, where to begin? I'm just going to say part of the reason that Sam Harris has always bothered me so much is that if you look at the pattern, this is going back several years when I always had a problem with, and now it's become a lot more stark, because when you get into race, quote unquote, science, this is a much, that hits most Americans a little bit more viscerally. But all of the anti-Muslim shit and all of the thought experiments about, dropping a nuclear weapon on the Muslim world and all of this nonsense, the same pattern of policy illiterate, aggressive, ahistorical approach and a reactionary bent, which when he is cornered, he retreats to usually either bizarre obsessive self-defense or just stating truisms. And I think this debate with Ezra Klein revealed a lot about Sam Harris. And we'll start. And this is also, it's inescapable, because you can't not talk at this point about this guy's psycho-emotional issues. I'm not going to do an amateur diagnosis, and I'm not trying to take a cheap shot here. But if you listen to this show, with Ezra Klein, and you can hear it as anything other than a sort of controlled outburst and 2-hour act of projection and hysteria, I don't know what else you're listening to. Let's just run through some of the sound clips from this exchange with Ezra Klein.
I think there is what you would call confusion here. I do think it's just important to say this. I have not criticized you, and I continue to not, for having the conversation. I've criticized you for having the conversation without dealing with and separating it out and thinking through the context and the weight of American history on it. Not the weight of American history. The weight of American history is completely irrelevant to... No, it can't possibly be irrelevant on something that even you admit is environmental. The only thing that is relevant. So yes, but that part of the conversation has been had. You don't have to talk about slavery. You don't have to talk about the specific injustices in the past to have a conversation about the environmental factors that very likely keep people back.
So, okay, here, what's really interesting, and the reason that we wanted to isolate this is, first of all, that's actually the most honest distillation of Sam Harris's philosophy. And I'm sure that people are going to say it's taken out of context or whatever, but to the extent that we have human context, and you hear that bracketed and how he intervened there. So Sam didn't say, I would be completely fucking delusional to say, and then we clipped it out. Okay. You heard how he said that and then the context in it. So ironically, the guy is a total idealist and not an empiricist. He literally thinks, and you see this with religion, that abstractions and ideas exist almost in a platonic form outside of history. During most of the conversation, he's on one hand saying that Charles Murray, who's an incredibly well-compensated and profoundly influential policy entrepreneur, who's written multiple best-selling books, who's won prizes, who's appeared in almost every major news outlet in the country, whose books are reviewed endless times in the New York Times. He's been on everything from ABC News to Bill Maher, that this guy is oppressed because some kids protested him. Okay.
And that's funny because Michael Brooks has been dead for some time. So this was some time ago. And this has only gotten worse. This has only fucking gotten worse. Hold on.
From ABC News to Bill Maher, that this guy is oppressed because some kids protested him.
that right there, there is a I don't know how you pronounce his name, but it's Barry Douche. I'm oppressed. Oh my God, this isn't the one I'm looking for, but this is on point. 50 years ago. I don't see what you're doing, what you're all whining about. Yeah, that's on point. That's totally on point. But that's not the one I was looking for. I'm trying to find it. But my search function isn't working. God damn it. Let's see if I can find it. I can't find it. But he had this really funny comic where basically he had this person said, we're not gonna publish your piece. And the guy like, oh, this is, I'm being oppressed. And literally, it goes to the next clip. I'm being silenced. No, that's it. Silenced. Maybe that's why. Yes, and that was actually in the nib. This. We're dropping your column. Many readers think you're just too extreme. I have been silenced. And then he goes on this little tour. I have been silenced. In the Washington Post, I have been silenced. On Fox News. Here with his new book, I have been silenced. I have been silenced. That, my friends, is like literally the Sam Harris shtick. And the woke mob is going to somehow silence actual debate.
Okay. While not doing that, he's then also basically saying, like, I don't agree necessarily with Murray's policy prescriptions, even though the whole point of Murray's work is his policy prescriptions. It's been quite influential. And if you look at the bell curve, he actually literally talks about the policy disincentives that need to be created from having, quote unquote, stupid mothers having children because of this genetic determinism. At the same time, while begging from Murray, he actually echoes Murray's core argument there, which is that even by the 1970s, when Charles Murray first came on the scene, he was saying that race and IQ could be completely disconnected from environment because Jim Crow and legal segregation was over, which in Murray's case fits with his far-right politics. And I would say, yes, indeed, racism. In Harris's case, Harris is so delusional and disconnected from any broader understanding of how the world works that, yes, in his personal normative sense, he's not a racist, but he becomes an active agent of racism.
Here's the thing. Now, again, this is a take. I wonder when this was, because that matters. By the way, I want to say whether this was though. Bum, bum, bum.
Still taking
2018. So, I mean, almost 3 years ago. But the reality here, I believe, is that Sam Harris knows his audience. This happens all the fucking time. I can't believe what's happened to the atheist experience. And if you look, it's literally Dillahunty knowing where his grift lies. Apparently, Adam is LARPing today as a computer or as a spam bot. Jamie J says, imagine getting to the point in your career as a person who writes down their political opinions when you feel entitled to have those opinions published for a wage. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I said, I literally called this shit out in my conversation with this person who shall not be named. Because they were asking who I was referring to then, and was it just Sam's fans that I was referring to? I said standing period. It's something that comes from someone's cognitive bias. Who can take Sam Harris seriously after that Klein interview? He softballed Sam and was still attacked. I was more pointing to the I don't speak German guys were covering ground that had already been covered on Ina's podcast pretty extensively. And with all, I mean, Ina's done a whole series at Polite Conversations. It's called Woking Up, about Sam Harris. And in response, Sam Harris has called her crazy. He doesn't refute anything she said. He just personally attacks her and says that she's crazy. And that he somehow, by coming on her show, launched the show, which is absurd. But I said, who can legitimately claim Sam is anything more than a well-established, educated troll? But there are many stands for like Jordan Peterson or other gross atheists that have done awful stuff. Krauss, Shermer. I can think of a bunch of them. And these people will like support people that are obviously bad actors and people that are just fucking grifters. And when it comes to people, both stands and the people that they stand for, they offer nothing for society. They're parasites. In fact, they make the world a worse place to be because they inflame the rhetoric so much and create this kind of camouflage. It's sad and it's disgusting. And I just wish that more people would talk about how in internet culture, standing is something that is toxic as fuck. And this discourse, it's to the point where I mean it's laughable. Anyways,
through this attitude. What's the next clip we have?
This is where they talk about the Flynn, what Flynn told Ezra.
Well, this is interesting because you'll hear in this exchange, it's kind of unbelievable, but I just want to stipulate in the interest of intellectual fairness that in the past, Sam has said that apparently like race and IQ, although he does seem to now have a big interest in this, although he's not particularly interested in the field, he doesn't include he doesn't rule out the possibility that there are things like psychic phenomenon. So it is possible that even though Ezra Klein is quoting James Flynn, and even though James Flynn is confirming what Ezra is saying, that Sam Harris actually has a karmic a psychic connection to James Flynn, which he's developed through meditation, which allows him to understand that what Ezra is saying about what James Flynn said to Ezra on the phone is wrong. Let's check this out.
You say that it is unfair journalistically to put your conversation within the lineage of the conversation going all the way back in American history and all the way, as you say, pre-American history. In fact, in my piece, I quote Voltaire and Hume and others. That at each point, European descended white men of scientific mind looked around them, looked at the society they saw, looked at the outcomes people had in the society they saw, looked at the science pulled from those outcomes, right? And it was called science back then too. And said, you know what? What we are seeing here is a result of innate differences between the races. And but it's something I'm just going to say, we've not even talked through questions of like what it even means to talk about races and the way that has changed over time, but I'll just bracket that. And at each point, that has been, it's been justified in different ways with different kinds of science. But, now we look back and we say, oh man, they did not know what they were talking about. That was ridiculous. I mean, look at what was going on in their society. But they looked and they ran their studies and they ran the numbers and they said, there's just a difference here. There's a difference here. And that is why things are turning out the way they are.
But Ezra, I'm pointing out that the bias...
Tell me why it is unfair to put to put your conversation in that lineage, why the burden of proof is not actually on you to say, here's why it is different this time. Here is why we are at a point either in American history or science or whatever, where that is no longer, like, we are certain that nobody in 50 years is going to look back at us and say that. Because scientifically, what the scientists who are on my side of this argument think, and they include James Flynn and many others, they say that's where we are here. I just quoted him to you.
It was still a misleading summary of what he said. I know what he's on record saying here, and you're interpreting it in a way that you like. I understand that. But
no, I'm not interpreting. James Flynn just said to me 2 days ago that it is consistent with the evidence that there is a genetic advantage or disadvantage for African Americans. That it is entirely possible that the 10-point IQ difference we see reflects a 12-point environmental difference and a -2 genetic difference.
Sure. Many things are possible, right? We're trying to judge on what is plausible to say, and more important, I am worried about the social penalty for talking about these things, because again, it will come back to us on things that we don't expect, like the Neanderthal thing, right? Like that comes out of left field. Had it gone another way, all of a sudden we can't talk about Neanderthal DNA anymore, and it would be there's no point in having our politics be hostage to these kind of tripwire effects.
We can't talk. Oh God, what would the world come to when we can't talk about Neanderthal DNA?
Where you say something that seems politically invidious, merely talking about the data as they are. I mean, unless every population of human beings has exactly the same mean and the same variance for every trait we care about, we are guaranteed to be blindsided by these differences that seem important to people who care about differences among groups.
Okay, so first, there's one valuable thing that came out of this, which is the new sound drop. Now we can't talk about Neanderthals anymore, which we'll be using liberally. But okay, so first there's the possibility, and Sam hasn't commented on this, that I meditate as well. No one has shaken my faith in the power of meditation more than Sam Harris. But in my experience of meditating, I have not been able yet to connect psychically. If Sam psychically is connected with James Flynn, that he could read that what he said to Ezra Klein on the phone was wrong.
Like literally, this is literally how desperate Sam is to not have to own up to something. It's like he doesn't know how to, like, he's got to make something. I mean, it just seems almost pathological. Like he has no concept of actually how to say, I hadn't thought of that. Or have a take other than, I know better than you what he thinks. Don't listen to what he said. Listen to me. Just absurd.
He should immediately publicly release those emails. But beyond that, I mean, Jesus Christ, there's there's a real mess that Sam has created. It's pretty invidious for me to have to clean it up. But the first part that Ezra's making, if you didn't catch, is he's actually saying that what Flynn told him and what is possible is that this 10-point IQ gap might actually be a 12% environmental influence, which means that there's a 2% lead for black people in IQ over white people, which, speaking of innate biases, Sam Harris dismissed this hypothetical in a field that he admits does not have settled science on as basically just ridiculous. So let's just listen to that again. It is very revealing.
Still a misleading summary of what he said. I know what he's on record saying here, and you're interpreting it in a way that you like. I understand that, but
no, I'm not interpreting. James Flynn just said to me 2 days ago that it is consistent with the evidence that there is a genetic advantage or disadvantage for African Americans. That it is entirely possible that the 10-point IQ difference we see reflects a 12-point environmental difference and a -2 genetic difference.
Sure. Many things are possible, right? We're trying to judge on what is plausible to say, and more important, I am worried about the social penalty for talking about these things, because.
Okay, so let me also just say, I would say that I think it's actually, and this, by the way, is already stipulating a path that we've gone down here, which we need to have. We're going to have Eric Turkheimer on this show to talk about the science and debunk it from that perspective. But we need to get back to have a much more rigorous conversation about a test that, of course, is understood to be universally valid by the people that study it and administrate it. That's hardly a shock that they would say that, and is a privately owned test by a private testing industry that already exerts far too much influence in American and international life and tracks not just on race, but all sorts of other class disparities in our system. Tabling that much more important conversation, and even someone like Siddhartha Mukherjee's book on genes actually addresses this very well. We'll come back to that later. But Sam is just saying, like, it's ridiculous. And now my question would be, if we're stipulating that this is such sound science and a lot of it is genetic, it actually seems to me that it might be possible that if you subjected one population to everything from slavery to mass murder to terrorism to systemic, political, economic.
Yeah, Michael Brooks, man, he's missed. But right on the fucking money here. Right on the fucking money. Sam wants to... in this interview, he's literally saying that you shouldn't take into you shouldn't think about and process into the conversation the trauma like that black people in the United States suffered and how that impacts on these tests.
Job and employment discrimination legally through at least the 60s, and then continued with social stigmas, cultural stories, which, by the way, Harris and Murray are doing their best to reinforce, to, again, housing, job discrimination, police interactions, police violence, not to mention lead, other environmental pollutants, which have actually been shown empirically to lower IQ scores, including even down to telling kids to not eat fish because the mercury actually can lower their score as well. It actually strikes me that only a 10-point differential might be just the sort of like methodologically interesting question to ask. If the gap is that small, maybe we're talking about just a community that just starts with an innately higher intellectual advantage. I mean, this is, and by the way, that type of subjective musing and speculation about the data is social science. This isn't math.
Well, and you aren't having people protesting, and that's what Sam seems to be saying. Oh, we can't talk about this, blah, 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 blah. But you want to have this esoteric conversation that doesn't involve real trauma. You know, it's just absurd.
You're always framing data questions. You're always framing studies. Human bias and subjectivity is never impossible to escape, let alone when you're talking about research that exists in the context of the entirety of American history. And then Sam goes back to his real bailiwick, which is, of course, the real aggrieved parties, in a conversation that goes back to the founding crime of America is obviously him and Charles Murray. No one has been more hurt. What's the next? Do we have more?
No, that's it. But just to be explicit, because I think there's a certain sort of Sam Harris fan that could watch this segment and think, well, they're still not addressing that. Ezra wanted to talk about all these history things, and Sam Harris just wanted to talk about the data as it is.
Right.
The important thing is that the data as it is doesn't even say that either. There is nothing in the data that suggests that there's a permanent racial IQ gap, which is what Charles Murray's been going on for 20 years about. And so
Longer.
like, yeah, exactly. So it's absurd that like
Charles Murray burned a cross when he was a teenager. Part of his research comes from the Pioneer Foundation, which was a eugenicist group and involved research from people who literally did study things like penis size versus brain size, like actually, not as a joke. He used this research along with other pseudoscientific theories and I will say pseudoscientific, to forward reactionary social policies, which not only have not marginalized him, they are our policies. We do have disastrously small spending on welfare and social advancement and social justice. And now we also have the type of immigration policies, which is paid attention to less, but he also called for in the bell curve along with Herrnstein. There's nothing in the science, if we even accept the science, that says that this is permanent and irreversible.
Yeah, if we grant the way that he conceives of race and IQ, it's bullshit still. And that's why he talks about Neanderthals, because the current data, Neanderthals in an alternate reality, where it turns out that it's not like Europeans that have some Neanderthal DNA, it's Africans. He suggests that in that hypothetical reality, we would have a PC outrage that maybe he'd have to self-immolate his career over.
Yeah,
but instead he's jumping the gun on that, like, because he's fundamentally not.
Because he's a lunatic. And by the way, if that came out, no one would care. We wouldn't be sitting here in our studio like, oh my God, what are we going to do about the Neanderthal story that was created, that was written up in the back page of the science section of the New York Times, and maybe a handful of white supremacists ran with, and a handful of people on Twitter were offended by. No one gives a fuck. People do give a fuck about the attempt to naturalize racism so as to implement social Darwinism and policy, which the whole time he's saying he disagrees with. You know, at least Charles Murray is coherent in his despicable contributions to human life. I mean, Sam Harris would be a lot more likable, I mean, though no less despicable, if he was the reverse, if he was genuinely scientifically sound and a white supremacist. Like if he was just like, the data just doesn't, imagine he's like with Richard Spencer, and he's just like, Richard, I would love to live in a society where I never had to listen to rap music or see basketball again. Okay, that is my normative preference. But if you look at what Nisbet is saying about IQ, the data isn't there. This doesn't account for the Flynn effect. We need to be prepared for the worst case scenario. Okay, let's say disaster. IQ, it's been mapped.
All right. I don't think he plays anymore. Yeah, he doesn't play anymore. But I challenge you to go. And Adam Rainstopper. Okay, power went out, came back, went out, came back, went out, came back. Now the thunder seems to have moved on, and my router has reset after I got gasoline all over my paws, starting the generator. Well, that is dedication to the Tea Party, and we appreciate that. Thank you, Adam. But yeah, I mean, like literally, how after that interview, I think you should literally go listen, and I need to stop saying literally all the fucking time. But you should listen to that interview if you have any kind of, I mean, if you're listening to this and you're a Sam Harris fan / stan, I don't know how that you can listen to all the criticisms from people like Ina and these type of interviews, and go back and yourself listen to the debate between Ezra Klein. He is so gentle with him, and Sam Harris will not concede a single point. And this is the kind of thing that right-wing commentators do. They will never concede a point. I don't think I've ever heard Sam Harris say he was wrong about anything. And I mean, this is a guy. Let's look this up together, shall we? I'll just look this up. Sam Harris, immigrants, France. This is from 2013. This is on Sam Harris's podcast. Yeah, I don't want to read. That's too fucking long. But basically, he said that in 25 years, he basically gave this book credence from Douglas Murray called The Strange Death of Europe. The thesis: Murray thinks that European civilization as we know it will not survive, and he explores two factors he thinks to explain this. The first is a combination of mass migration of new peoples into Europe together with low birth rates. This is like fucking European white genocide fucking bullshit. That's all it is. The second is that Murray describes as, quote, the fact that at the same time Europe lost faith in its beliefs, traditions, and legitimacy. So, yeah. A more mixed review of the book. Let's see. The New York Times, of course. The New York Times described the book as a handy digest of far-right cliches. In The Intercept, Murtaza Hussain criticized the relentless paranoid tenor of Murray's work and said that it claims of mass crime perpetuated by immigrants were blinkered to the point of being propaganda, while noting the book's appeal to the far right. In The Middle East Eye, Georgetown professor Ian Allman called the book a staggering one-sided flow of statistics, interviews, and examples reflecting a clear decision to make the book a rhetorical claim that Europe is doomed to self-destruction. And that basically, I mean, Sam Harris where is it? Sam Harris wrote in 2006, France could be Muslim majority country within 25 years. And yeah, if you look at if you research the facts, it's nowhere close. He said that 20 years ago, not 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 14 years ago. And it's no closer to the fact now than it was then. So, yeah. It's just bullshit. That's all it is. But he can't even admit to that. I mean, that's one thing he's been wrong about. By the way, I was invisible. Is this like, do we get favored treatment in exchange for our loyalty, for the loyalty to the party? Adam thinks he's being silenced. Post it to Discord. YouTube cannot touch you there. I'm sure it can touch you somewhere. Jordan Joan P says, wait, is David Silverman and Sam Harris the same guy? Well, no, but they are the same type of person. I believe. I mean, you're talking about people that essentially they're fucking parasites. What do they offer society? How is society better because they offered their analysis up? I mean, literally, Sam Harris is promoting white supremacist ideas and platforming them. And it's so funny. Terror TV over on let me see if I can find it. Let me see. This is so on point.
Tell us that you're white without saying, I'm white.
Well, if I could just play devil's advocate for a second.
But that's literally Sam Harris's grift. He's literally, well, talking about these hypothetical situations, thinking that somehow those hypothetical situations that we just want to talk about it, that they have no real world implications on people's lives. It's just a debate. We're just debating your existence. We're just debating your lives. I mean, God damn. Anyways. So, yeah. Sam Harris, I still say I don't think there's any way that you can think that Sam Harris is anything other than an internet troll and a grifter. Somebody that literally is just making bank. He's worth almost $3 million, and somebody that's just making bank on the people he knows will fund him and support him. There's like this grift kind of like, they did a study, or they've done a lot of studies on cognitive bias that show basically that you show people the facts and they don't care. Cognitive bias kicks in. Their belief only gets stronger when you give them the facts. Adam said, and it's so funny because Adam, unless I looked up his bio, I wouldn't have known who Sam Harris, like how he got famous. But Adam said he's already rich because of the Golden Girls and is just trying to be famous on top of it. Literally, I think it was his mom was like some part of the creation of the Golden Girls. So there's one redeeming thing about Sam Harris. But yeah, he was born wealthy, and he was born into a family that could build a platform like that, and yeah, he did. So yeah, that's Sam Harris, and it's not shocking. It's not surprising. It's dude bros being dude bros. What can I say? Anyways, I think I'm going to move on from this. Something like Jamie J said his mom was also born rich. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird how intergenerational wealth it's like these people in capitalism like literally keep themselves going through the generations, families. It's like it's not really bootstraps. I said this to someone, and I love that I said it, but we conservatives always want to talk about bootstraps, but they don't want to talk about where the boots were made and who made the boots, whose labor was made those boots, and who funds those boots. And I need to keep this, but I had a TikTok of a creator that talked about the actual wealth at the time, and it was in billions of dollars at the time that slavery was worth, and the capital that came from that. I mean, how much money kind of just continued and how it perpetuates these families. Adam Rainstar. Jamie J said his mom was always born rich. She bankrolled Golden Girls. It's how she was involved. Jordan John P said, see if Sam Harris is rich, he can get a very realistic mask and become Dave Silverman. Materially, he already is. Meanwhile, Adam Rainstopper in chat said, meanwhile, I have to cancel autopay for my electric bill or overdraw my account, and I'm a bit distracted thinking of a thing I can do to get ahead of it real quick. Oh, well, what bothers me about that, like these people, like literally are wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. Well, beyond our wildest dreams. And for what? For basically fueling hatred. Anyways. There are some people that you shouldn't argue or that you shouldn't debate.
It's so cute how you think I owe you a counter argument. I'm not going to counter argue absolute nonsense. And even if I wanted to, like, I've got better things to do. Y'all get on the internet every day and think everybody owes you some kind of discussion or argument. I'm just laughing at you because I think your comment was stupid. That's it. Never propose to have a counter argument because I've got better things to do than argue with people who leave dumb comments on an internet app. But I'm sure you'll find somebody who's more than willing to argue with you if that's what you want. It's just not going to be me. So blessings.
Rin hitting one out of the park. I'm trying to see what I want to talk about next. Oh, this is from someone on Twitter on TikTok called Ziggy Sharp. And this was a conversation where they were talking about atheism.
So you don't recognize thousands of years of human culture?
The amount of leftist atheists who will just show their asses when you talk to them about religion baffles the fuck out of me. If you're an atheist and you're also a leftist, be conscious of how colonization and imperialism influences your mindsets. You still have evangelical thought processes in your mind. You still have a lot of the mainstream Christian doctrine in your brain. It's just now adapted to, well, atheism. Man,
that is so on point. If you think of modern atheists, there are so many of them that sound like that sound like evangelicals still. I don't really have anybody in mind, Seth Andrews, but I think that there are quite a few atheist Seth Andrews that epitomize this. Seth Andrews, like the only thing they lost was their belief in God.
Recognizing other gods or religions is true. Christians, that's weird. No, but not recognizing entire religions and swaths of human culture as legitimate just because they're a religion, that's normal, scientific, and logical. Please continue to do it. That hasn't led, and that mindset hasn't led to genocide. You're simply educating the heathens to know better. And as somebody who identifies as a religious leftist, you're showing where your actual allegiances lie.
That blew me the fuck away. Basically, what he's saying here is, well, he explains it in kind of where he got it from in his second video.
I'm glad I could give you that. I took a class on the sociology of religion and the both benefits and detriments its historical presence has had on society. It was a very shallow dive into all the different ways in which religion can both help and harm humanity, and how its manifestations and what it does typically add to or detract from humanity. I've also dealt with religious trauma and really enjoy looking at the social dynamics between religious institutions, specifically Christian ones, and how they abuse their systems of power. A lot of people who consider themselves leftists really do show their asses. You can talk to them about everything else and they'll be fine, but the minute you talk about religious rights or the ability for people to practice, it's like talking to a brick wall. Religion being the opiate of the masses doesn't actually mean that we need to abolish it. It just means we have to understand how to use it. I mean, liberation theology is a thing.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't necessarily mean control it. I mean, when I think about this, I think about my friends. I think about my friends and my community. When COVID hit, who were the two communities right here in Chatham-Gillingham that supported Chatham and Gillingham in England, who supported the hospital in the COVID response? Two communities did, and that was the Muslim community and the Sikh community. They fed us for free because they showed appreciation of what we were the risk that we were taking in the community. And some of the most supportive people of me are people that are religious, and some of them are Christian, some of them are Muslim. And I don't think that it's something what the fight needs to be against fundamentalism and trying to tell other people how to live their lives. Jamie J said Christianity can never be positive. Other religions, maybe not Christianity, though. I disagree. What he's saying as far as as culture-wise, there's been a lot of damage. That's for sure. That's for damn sure. But yeah. Well, speaking of how Christians can be bad,
they all think if you stand for righteousness that you're a freak, right? They're all trying to tell you that there are certain things that are clean, and God calls them abominations. Can I give you an example? Homosexuality, lesbianism, according to God.
Lesbianism.
New Testament, Old Testament, is and was an abomination. Well, why is it an abomination? Because abomination means disgusting. They asked Lester Summerall one time to come and debate.
First off, does anyone notice? Look at his eyebrows. Look at how arched his eyebrows are. Oh, God. Oh, God. Here we go. We got the fucking troll. Here we go. Why? Oh, why? Oh, thank you, Adam. Oh, I mean, again, I don't understand literally the point of that. And I is this a good thing for me? I mean, they're doing it during the Jesus segment, but I find this really funny.
At a place where there was a homosexual panel and audience, debate why homosexuality is okay. And so Lester Summerall said, well, he said, I only got one thing. And they said, what? What's your one thing? And they're thinking he's going to go down the scriptures. He said, I just want you to describe to us how you men have, is there any little kids in here? How you come together.
How you come together. I got an idea. How do you go ahead and you do the same thing and explain how men and women come together. I mean, is it any less naughty or gross or, you know, this just goes to show somebody just doesn't like homosexuality, and great, just don't practice it. But
and they ended it. They didn't want to discuss it because they know that's disgusting.
They know that's disgusting.
Sodom and Gomorrah. Where do you get sodomy from?
Wow.
It's like he doesn't know how English works. Oh my. Oh, you might want to take a class in etymology. Anyways. Oh, that just made me laugh. Jordan Jumpy, I know one thing, his wife is not coming together with him. I'm just laughing at, like, the dude obviously, look at those eyebrows. Look at those fucking arched eyebrows. You do not get eyebrows like that without shaping them. Some would say that's gay. Oh, that reminds me, a friend and I were having a conversation about like how homophobic straight men are. And it's like, because it's like when you go into, like, before I transitioned, I'd go into bathrooms and, toilets. I can say toilets, and that works in the UK and here in the US. Toilets in men's room, you go in and it's like you put fucking horse blinders on. Oh my God, I can't look at the other guy's penis. Oh my God, gotta look straight to the wall. You know, it's like those blinders. I gotta look straight ahead. I can't talk. And then you go into women's restrooms and it's the exact opposite. Women want to compliment you on your makeup or on what you're wearing. And they just, it's like a conversation. But a lot of it has to do, I think, with there's not the homophobia that's like embedded into male culture, cishet male culture. But oh dear, it's disgusting. Oh my God. I do have some more funnies. This one made me laugh too.
Every signer of the Declaration of Independence were descendants of the tribes of Israel. We can trace it. We know it.
This literally is the oldest grift.
And here's the thing you've got to understand about Israel. Most people think of Israel, when you say the word Israel, they think of Jews. I was a doctor of theology I was the youngest ordained evangelist in America at 14 years old.
Wow.
I've lived for the Lord my whole life. And I was dumb as a box of rocks and didn't know it at 40 years old, because I thought that a Jew meant Israel and an Israel meant Jew. Until I started studying my Bible, and I found out that the first mention of the word Jew in the Bible is them fighting against Israel.
Wow.
When you come to understand that Israel is not Jews and Jews is not Israel, when you get that, here's what happens. All of a sudden,
you realize, well, when that happens to me, you know what I realize? Is that Israel is an apartheid state. and it's not the Jews. Israel is Israel. So it's not anti-Semitic to say that Israel is a apartheid state.
and I'll do it real fast. At one time, they were one nation. King Solomon died, King Jeroboam, King Rehoboam, there was a split.
Yeah.
The Jews, the tribe of Judah, stayed in Jerusalem. They kept the Sabbath. That's why they're still identifiable. They kept the Sabbath. That kept them identifiable for these thousands of years. However, there was 10 tribes that went to the north with King Rehoboam in rebellion. Those tribes crossed over the Caucasian mountains. They were
the Caucasian mountains.
Captivated by the Germans. They crossed over the Caucasian. Oh, we're out of time. Oh, anyway. So they crossed over. I'll make it real quick. Where they wound up at was the Great British Isles, because the prophecy was that they would go to the Isles of the Sea. And from there, we find those tribes making their way to the United States of America.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Adam says that's the technical term for the White Mountains, right? Oh, God. Oh, you can't make this shit. Well, he did. It's funny, though, because this guy, again, I'm saying this is a grift. This is another one of this guy's sermons.
And they would take one child and sacrifice that child to Baal. And then they would take the eggs and dye it in the blood of that child.
I wonder if they did that in the Caucasian mountains.
That's where dyeing Easter eggs comes from. That's why the official Easter egg color is red.
The official. If you go to SatanLovesEaster.com, you'll see that the official egg color of SatanLovesEaster.com is red.
Look at the White House Easter egg every year. It's ruby red, the color of the blood of the children. Eggs are the symbol of what?
Fertility.
That's why I told you this story is a sex story.
That's right.
People get so uncomfortable when I say it, but you don't get uncomfortable when you celebrate it. You just don't want the truth coming in your face. You want to hide behind it. Eggs is all about having babies. And we know what makes that.
Right.
The whole religion of Satan is perversion. And God's Holy Ghost church is right in there with him.
My word. Yes, they are. They got the Holy Homos. That's what they.
Churches in this town, every one of them, Easter egg hunting, their children's out there rolling them bunch of eggs, celebrating this sexuality.
My word.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Now, let's have a look at the history of this guy. Oh, dear. Yeah. This is Mr. Jesus lover himself. Yeah. Yep. Southern Louisiana preacher was slapped with $100,000 in fines and a slew of criminal charges. John Vaughn, who also acted as an insurance agent, recently had his license yanked after allegedly stealing thousands of dollars. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying insurance fraud is, it's a grift. But yeah. It took months for Insurance Commissioner Jim Donaldson's office to pin Vaughn down and issue him a cease and desist order. Donaldson said that Vaughn has 2 licenses under separate aliases. We have shut down his operation. It does anger you when folks take advantage of a profession and trust that comes with it. So, yeah. He was charged with bank fraud, issuing worthless checks, and felony theft. So, yeah. Gotta love it. Somebody said, respect. He could work for 2 different such cons at once. Insurance and theology aren't even related fields. Oh, Lord have mercy. So, yeah. Isn't that special? But, I mean, nothing wacky going on here. Keep scrolling. Lord have mercy. Oh. Here we go. But they're not check this out.
I want to look at every book that you guys pulled out of circulation. I'm sure we've got hundreds of people out there that would like to see those books before we burn them.
I don't want to even see them. Like, I think they should be thrown in a fire.
Do we even know what we're looking for? Because if we're asking for an audit, we don't know what we're asking for right now.
Well, I mean, I don't know what type of criteria other than pedophilia and non-pedophilia that you're looking for, Dr. Daniels. Excuse me if I offended you with my non-politically correct terms into what's actually in those books. If they offend you by me saying it out loud, then that should show how you should feel about the books being in the library in general. So if me telling you about these books offended you, then you should be offended that these books are in the library in general. So.
And what is it? What are the books that they're talking about here? They're talking about, it's called, what is it called? It's called 33. Let let's have a look in the story. Where you at? Several offending books which followed a complaint by Christina and Robert Burris, parents of a Riverbend high school student. They were initially upset by the amount of LGBTQ fiction they found on their child's story library app. Not at the library itself, but it was in an app. Adam Rapp's book, 33 Snowfish. So let's do a Google search on that. 33 Snowfish is a 2003 novel by Adam Rapp. And Adam Rapp is actually the brother of Anthony Rapp, who was in Rent. And this is the plot. Snowfish follows the character of Curtis, a 10-year-old orphan living with his, quote, owner, Bob Motley, who sexually abuses him in a dilapidated house in Rockdale, Illinois. After overhearing that he was to star in a snuff movie, Curtis steals a small pistol and escapes through a hole in the wall. While hiding from Motley's crew and begging for quarters in a video arcade at Joliet Mall, Curtis spots Booby, whose real name is Darren Flowers, a strange boy with black eyes and a single painted fingernail. Curtis decides to follow Booby into Crazy Loose Woods, a private woodland supposedly owned by ex-military cat farmer. Curtis and Booby soon become friends. Curtis, having no home, and Booby, who is in an unstable relationship with his parents, set up a makeshift home in the woods with a tent and steal electricity from a nearby paper factory. Soon they are joined by Curl, Bobby's 14-year-old girlfriend, who is addicted to drugs and supports herself as a prostitute. And finally, Booby's baby brother, who Booby abducts after murdering his parents. The four of them take the road in a stolen Buick to flee the police, who are searching for Booby, engaging in dumpster diving, robbery, and begging in various Chicago suburbs along the way. So this is fiction. And yeah, would I want a 10-year-old reading this? No. But if it was a 14 or 15-year-old, I mean, this is life. This happens in real life. This is the kind of shit that happens. I want to talk about pedophilia. Like, literally, this is something that happens in the plot, but it's not a book that's positive about pedophilia. Pedophilia happens. People are abused. It happens. Anyways, so literally, they're calling for books to be burned. I think we should throw these books in a fire. I guess we live in a world now that our public schools would rather have kids read about gay pornography than Christ. Like, you can't read about Christ in these. You can go, I mean, honestly, you can go to the library and get a Bible because it's a book. It's not banned. You can do that. You can do that in schools as well. When I was in school, we had a class about Christianity, but it was about religion. It wasn't an indoctrination. Jamie J. Oh, I'm not going to say anything. Others drew parallels to a dystopian novel, for Fahrenheit 451, and wondered where all these efforts will stop. And here's the thing. I've said on the show before that I don't think that voting matters. And I do want to make a conditional statement with that. This is something that that Black Bloc Politics has discussed.
All right, let's deal with this. Can't you make the same argument about Biden voters and supporters, given his history?
Yo, what's up, motherfucker? Let me tell you something, okay? You are fucking wrong, and you are arguing a position that is both not concerned with the real world outcomes of real, tangible results for Americans.
First, check your tone. I'm not your motherfucker. And I doubt you would talk to me like that face to face. You see, because I'm not that person. And I am concerned with the real world tangible results. That's why I didn't make a choice between one racist or the other, because I know that helps no one but racist. But let's see what else you had to say.
You would not be making the argument that you are, that Biden hasn't done anything because you don't have a child.
You know, Trump did a child tax credit also, right? So why even bring that up? You're just kind of proving my point that both administrations are the same and offer the American people that you claim to care about nothing but peanuts. But I would expect no less from someone like you. You see, I never said the Republicans weren't doing anything evil. I said Democrats and Republicans are the same. I said you would have to be a fucking moron to believe that Trump has done more harm to marginalized communities than someone like Joe Biden, who has had a political career of almost 50 years. I said choosing between one racist, sexist, imperialist is no different from choosing the other racist, sexist, imperialist. And all you've done is given me a bunch of MSNBC talking points. Now I'm going to ask one more time, and you should open your fucking ears because apparently you didn't the first time. Do you actually believe that Donald Trump has done more harm to marginalized communities in 4 years than Joe Biden has done in almost 50? Serious question. And don't avoid it this time.
I think when it comes to these discussions, it does matter in the context of having these book burners. But Democrats aren't doing anything. The reality is that Democrats, we know what's going to happen in the upcoming elections. The same thing that happened in Virginia is going to happen nationwide. There's going to be a march towards fascism. Why? Because literally Democrats have done absolutely nothing. This person wants to talk about tax credits. Like, what do people that are getting kicked out of their homes right now, do they care about tax credits? No. You're talking about the most marginalized people, and you're talking about fucking tax credits. It's absurd. It's absurd. And like, it's sad, but if you want to avoid the type of Republicans that are fucking book burning and that want basically, here's an example.
There's a lot of RNC members in leadership positions that are upset about this because they were not told. This was something that Rana did on her own.
There was a pride booth set up at an RNC event.
Quite frankly, I think it's time for her to take up something else and leave the party to those who I think can chart a path forward, restore what has been lost, and make sure that the Republicans, the conservatives, regain the majority both in Congress and continue to see victories and gains in states across the nation.
So she needs to step down, is what you're saying.
I think so. Yeah, I think she needs to step down. I think she has outlived her purpose at the RNC.
She's outlived her purpose at the RNC because, oh my God, somebody had a pride booth. It just blows me away. Anyways. This is the kind of stuff that, I mean, look.
This is insane. This is beyond insane at this point.
This is from Stu Peters, also, which is hilarious. By the way, we have a lot of these clips clips from somebody. This guy is like on the Jesus right? Remember when I said this kind of thing is a fucking grift? You're going to laugh your asses off. MAGA's new shock jock is a bounty hunter with a troubled past. So literally, he got in trouble, basically because he was doing this bounty hunter bullshit, and 2 people got shot and killed trying to apprehend someone. But it it gets even funnier than that. And the guy's like literally let me see if this is real.
And if you can't watch your mouth, then you can just expect to be getting that ass beat a lot.
So, consensual or not, what's conservative about having threesomes with random girls?
I want to do is fuck bitches and just get trashed, right? The difference between us is I did that all in a past life.
Second of all, I wasn't a wannabe rapper. I was a rapper with a record deal. And I'm proud of the music that I made.
Big beats, big sales, big dreams come true, and I never suck dick and ass in the back. About your industries like sex with no condom, and I am sliding out in.
So it's true. The guy's literally a fucking, like, the Grift as a rapper didn't work. The Grift as a bounty hunter didn't work. So what does he do? Yeah, he grifts on the right. With conservatives. And Jamie J said, speaking of Republicans, did you know that Shoe on Head is currently employed by the Republican Party, by the New York Republican Party? Hilarious that she keeps trying to sell herself on the image of being leftist, to be quite honest. I think it's funnier that Peter Coffin was trying to say that she was a leftist.
People need to be arrested. I mean, for violating the Constitution so blatantly.
Anti-white hate okay with GOP.
And I think that the parents of this country, I think they should just say enough and go literally sit at the school board meetings until these sons of bitches resign. Sorry about the cursing.
That's all right.
These
I have 1 minute
resign.
left, and I got to get this question out because I have 1 minute left. Okay, so you mentioned arrests, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Now, in a one-word answer, should Fauci be arrested?
Absolutely. My attitude is show some leadership and get a national petition going to literally have him arrested for crimes against humanity. Go pull the...
This is literally a candidate for the U.S. Senate in Illinois.
You know, go pull the language and try him under that. Arrest him under that. Have him prove that he didn't commit crimes against humanity. But I think that the public is behind Fauci being arrested. And the fact that they're not willing to take, I guess, the political hit, maybe they want to get reelected or something, I think is a bunch of nonsense. Figure it out. And if our as far as I'm concerned, this is a war crime. Get our damn military involved if we have to. Find out what manner and what way do we get the military involved. If there's a war criminal walking around freely on U.S. soil.
Fauci is a war criminal. What? Anyways, wow. I mean, I guess vote so you don't have these type of people, but literally that's it. That's literally the only, and this is something that I wanted to talk to. I saw this recently. People were sitting there touting it as it was some sort of big deal. Poll finds that 88% support Sanders' plan to lower prescription drug prices. We'll get back to this in a minute. I want to address what Jamie J said. I am upset that I have been publicly exposed for not actually hating all white men. Speaking of how anti-white racism is definitely totally real at all, I am completely devastated. You know what's funny about that? Like, and it's funny you brought that up. Young Merc put out this video.
So this idiot got freed on a $75,000 bill. $75,000 only for shooting 4 people. 4 people in school.
Already, I can tell your goofy tap dancing MAGA hat wearing ass has absolutely no clue what the fuck you talking about, yet you still about to fix your glizzy goblets to make a bullshit ass straw man argument, make no point, and still be loud and wrong as hell. But continue.
And he's out after shooting 4 people in school. He's a school shooter. And he's black.
This is a school shooter. 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 These are school shooters. These were potential school shooters. And this happened in September of this year. Yeah, I didn't see you or any of those fucking aspirin apes covering this story. White males been shooting up schools, supermarkets, concerts, movie theaters, and everything in between for decades. Yet somehow you fucking knobgoblins who claim to be pro-life always seem to be conveniently quiet whenever these events take place. Oh, but now that you and the rest of the Trumpanzees found one black kid who you think fits your narrative, now y'all ready to label him a school shooter and cry injustice?
I don't think this incident was an actual school shooting or active shooter.
He also said the aggravated assault charges against Simpkins are appropriate.
We wanted to charge him with the most severe charge that we could.
You heard it from the police chief himself, our good old boys in blue, and I know y'all always back the blue. But go on, I'm just getting warmed up.
Cal Rittenhouse shot people in self-defense because those fools were armed. One of the dude had a handgun on him. The others, they tossed Molotov cocktails at him. Molotov cocktails at him.
Today, Junior. First of all, Joseph Rosenbaum was not armed, and that was a plastic bag, not a fucking Molotov cocktail. This is a close-up of that exact same bag. Anthony Huber was also not armed, and they also chased him to stop him from shooting anybody else. The part that's most ironic about all this is that Shittenhouse shot and killed everybody except the person who was armed. And the funniest part about all this is that still nobody answered my question. If I took my AR-15 and my pistols up to the Capitol on January 6th and assisted them officers in dropping them fake tree of terrorists one by one, would I be a hero or vigilante? And if the answer is no, why not? You wouldn't call me a hero because then that would justify me unaliving your people. And you won't say I'm a vigilante because then that exposes your hypocrisy. Eat 1,000 dicks.
Wow. Take care, Adam. See you later. I hope your problems get resolved. Young Merc is totally on point here. Well, with nobody, everybody wants to talk about, and this reminds me too. they will go out of their way to talk about trans women in bathrooms, blah, blah, blah. But they never talk about actual cis, het, male violence that happens in bathrooms all the fucking time. They search all over the world and find nothing. Jamie J says, in a brawl between Nazis and cops, who should we open fire on? Aren't they the same? Ouch, did I say that? But yeah. No comment, but yeah. So getting to your point, I did have to laugh though. There's this guy on TikTok that has basically been troll farming. Basically saying racist shit, right? And then basically what do they say? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Like literally, this is what happened.
All racists should just be harassed and bullied until the point where they can't even fucking live a life anymore.
I guess racists are just not be able to have a life. I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with them being bullied.
Are there different versions of this app? Because my version of the app, you have to deliberately open it. But does somebody else have a version of this app that it just opens and then it just records you when it's not deliberate? Is that a thing?
The accidental racist.
Does he know? Somebody want to tell him that?
I just pulled my phone out and it made me say racist stuff on TikTok. Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh my. I don't know if I played this.
So Racist Zoomer made this video, and it's unintentionally quite funny.
I wouldn't change a thing, so glad you're back again.
No, in the year 2060, white people will still be a majority of the US population. I love how most people are thinking about like climate collapse in 2060, real world issues. And this guy is like, oh no, white people will be a slightly smaller majority in 2060 than they were in 1894. And the right wingers call us snowflakes. But the best bit is that on that graph, the number of white people in 2060 is a lot higher than the number in 1894. So he's actually crying about the fact that there'll be more white people. I don't think these people can read.
It's not surprising, though. To be honest with you, it's just not surprising. Jamie says, I love Cog. He's consistently been a sweetheart. Yeah, he made this one that was actually kind of funny as well.
You know what masturbation is? It gives you 5 seconds of pleasure and eternity of hell.
Well, he seems stable and well adjusted. Definitely someone you should take advice from.
It separates you from God.
Well, good. You don't want it to watch.
It kills your marriage and your view of women. It destroys what is holy.
What if you're gay? Actually, don't answer that. I feel like I'm not going to like your answer.
God made sex to be a good thing. You join the team of Satan. You spit in God's face when you choose your hate instead of your wife.
Oh, hey, Catherine. Where's your husband? Oh, he's taken his hand out to dinner again.
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me? It's an abomination. It's terrible. And it will ravage your mind forever.
I feel like you've done it once, and now you're sitting in your room and you can't stop thinking about it, and that's where you're making all these videos. I promise you it's fine. God has bigger problems right now. You can relax.
It is not something to play around with.
Do I even need to say that's why it's there? That's why it's there. A really poor choice of words to end on there.
Oh dear. Cog. Totally knocks it out of the park with that one. Oh God. So yeah. You know, I generally like Marxist content, basically. But I watched this, and I want you guys to give me your honest opinion.
Hi, my name's Will. I'm from the Marxist Student Federation and the International Marxist Tendency. So today marks the anniversary of the Russian Revolution, and for the first time in history, capitalism had been overthrown and for a period replaced by the most democratic regime the world has ever seen. This was the single greatest achievement of the working class in history and the most monumental event in modern history. This may seem like an overstatement, but I defy you to think of any historical moment in the last 100 years that wasn't in some way or another directly or indirectly influenced by the Russian Revolution. For example, US and Western domestic and foreign policy, specifically in relation to the Second World War, the Cold War, the wars in Vietnam, Afghanistan, the Contra Wars in Latin America and Asia, the Chinese, Cuban and the colonial revolutions, and then the subsequent effects that these had on the consciousness of the ruling classes and the workers and peasants all over the world. And the list goes on. The Russian Revolution was massive. It was undeniably the most influential event in history. And not only that, it was the most inspiring act of bravery and courage that shines like a beacon of hope to all the oppressed peoples of the world, that there is a way out of the endless suffering and misery. The revolution was the first time capitalism was overthrown. The huge, seemingly unbreakable worldwide machine that was capitalism and imperialism was smashed in Russia. The world capitalist class could only look on in horror as Lenin and Trotsky led the working class to victory. Therefore, as Marxists, we must study the Russian Revolution. We need to draw the lessons from the successes and the failures of the Bolshevik Party. And not only that, we must understand why the most progressive and democratic regime in history turned into its opposite, a bloated, ultra-conservative bureaucracy. Those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Lenin understood this, which is why he set about the lifelong task of mastering the Marxist method and painstakingly training up the Bolshevik Party in revolutionary theory. They carefully studied the revolutions that came before them so that they could correctly orientate themselves and work out a path to lead the working class to victory. This was exactly how capitalism was overthrown in Russia, and it is our task heading into the crises that lie ahead. We must therefore prepare ourselves seriously by building on these traditions. So like Lenin and the Bolsheviks did, let's educate ourselves on the revolutions that came before us, and this starts with the Russian Revolution. So write into the MSF website where you can join one of our reading groups and arm yourself with the most powerful revolutionary weapon, the weapon of Marxist theory. So what are you waiting for? Join us in the struggle for socialism. We have a world to win.
Okay. So what did you guys think of that? Like, what did that make you think about? Like hearing that. Because I want to get your impressions first before I tell you mine. But what did that remind you of? I'm curious. I'm curious. I would like to find out what you guys think of it before I actually give my 2 cents on this. Well, I'm just going to give it, I guess. To me, that sounds a lot like Christians. It sounds like somebody coming to your door telling you, do you want, can I tell you about my Lord and Savior? Does it not? Does it not remind you of somebody that's like evangelizing? Because that's what it seems like to me. And, you know, Jamie says, I hope he dies choking on Stalin's wang doodle. Well, I don't know about Stalin. Lenin That's possible. I mean, because I wonder if they embalmed everything. anyways, so if you don't know, if you don't know what I'm talking about, Lenin was embalmed in a way that I don't know if they showed any close-up pictures, but yeah. I just want to know if they embalmed everything. Anyways, but I just thought that was exactly like somebody like he could have been someone from he could have been someone from the what do you call it? The guys that come around, the Jehovah's Witness. You know, that's that. Come to our reading group and read our tracks. But I think like this kind of puts it into perspective for me. Black Bloc Politics posted this. So let's play it. Let's start it again. There is no infighting amongst the left, just liberals calling each other out while ignoring the actual left. And then it says, did I mispronounce Jehovah's Witnesses? Jehovah's Witness. It's one. It's only one witness. Marxist, anarchist, DemSoc, Maoist, council communist, socialist. Liberal.
First of all, shout out to the actual left. Love your content. But I severely hate that clip, right? Because it emphasizes what I mean by leftists, right? The vast majority of leftism is represented in this country by the Western white left. And no clip emphasizes that more than the one I just showed y'all. What is it? It's a bunch of white guys, right? Now I want you for a second to draw an image in your head of who best represents those labels you just saw. Marxist, council communism, democratic socialism, anarchist, socialist, and Maoist. The only hint of color you see represented in those labels is Maoism. So when I hear this term infighting amongst the left, it's typically white people arguing over their varying degrees of liberalism. Because I don't give a fuck what you call yourself on the left. I am a communist. And I got here by paying attention, reading, and learning, and following the examples of the Black Panther Party, who identified themselves as, guess what? Communist. As I said many times before, they brought Marxist, Leninism, and Maoism under one umbrella and called it the emancipatory sciences of Marxist, Leninist, Maoism. So it is my suggestion that if you are truly about the fight for equity and justice amongst all people, that's what you would identify as. You wouldn't call yourself a fucking leftist or any of those other labels. But you know why the vast majority of people don't do that? Because it comes with a risk. You can call yourself anything you want to call yourself, but if you aren't true to the values and the actions that come with that label, you are simply just LARPing. You want the social credit points, but don't want to do any of the actual work. You want to discuss the theory, but you don't actually want to apply it using your own resources. You want to use the struggles of marginalized communities to sell your shitty merch on your shitty channels, talking about your varying degrees of liberalism. How did it get to a point where leftists are making excuses for the very system they claim to be against? Why are there literal fucking leftists arguing with me about which imperialist is worse? How are there leftists that believe in incrementalism? But I get it. It's easier to hide behind a label than it is to do the actual fucking work.
Again, black bloc politics coming in hard and fast and just busting it out, the truth. Jamie J. Yeah, it does sound identical. But yeah, I definitely think that that you want to talk about leftists, and there was a this kind of hit me too.
No nuance November. Anarchism and communism are synonyms. If your anarchism isn't communist, it's not anarchism. If your communism isn't anarchist, it's not communism.
Discuss? I mean, I tend to agree with that. I mean, if you're talking about I tend to agree with that. Oh, and Retrowaves put this out.
All right, well, this is fucking interesting. The victims of the tragedy that happened at the Astroworld Festival are suing the organizers and Travis Scott. In a petition filed on Saturday, the victims claimed the disaster was the result of a motivation for profit at the expense of concert goers' health and safety. Can I sue this fucking nation then? Because that's what this entire country has been built on. Listen, if this shit goes through, I'm suing every fucking body, all right? This entire system is built with the motivation of profit at the expense of everyone else's health and safety. Only here, in this case, there's a face and a name to place on it. This system is slowly fucking killing us, and this is proof of it right here.
Jamie J. Where is Adam when you need somebody to joke about anarchist states with? So I think that's pretty on point. And the truth of the matter is, when it comes to politics, I did want to get back to that Bernie story. So poll finds 88% support Sanders' plan to lower drug prescription prices. And people are putting this out like, oh my God, this is so profound. It's going to pass. Let's look. Medicare for all. Pew poll. Like, this was back in 2020, September of 2020. The majority of Democrats favor a single national government program to provide health care coverage. Yet Joe Biden doesn't. So if you're talking about a poll finds 88% of Sanders, they support Sanders' plan to lower prescription drug prices, it doesn't matter. And why doesn't it matter? I think this video answers that.
For solidarity's sake, I'm going to break this down for you. Democrats do not want to raise the minimum wage. We don't have a government. We have a corporate oligarchy that exploits everyone. In fact, workers across this country are striking, fighting for what they earn. You're on the communist side of TikTok. We believe that food, water, housing, healthcare, education, broadband shouldn't be for profit, and everybody's basic human needs should be met. We want everyone to live a life with dignity and with equity. This is incrementalism. We want to seize the means of production. Have a great day.
And that's to me, that's the bottom line. You're talking about, it doesn't matter what people want. This isn't a democracy. It's a corporatocracy. It's an oligarchy. Jamie said a 7-8 majority may support something, but how many of them are ultra wealthy? Well, yeah. You're not wrong. Jamie said, I used to live with Jehovah's Witnesses. They used to complain about how I am discriminated against them by daring to be gay in their presidents. It was absurd and surreal. How dare you? How very dare you? But what politics has turned into is, and I keep going back to Carl Sagan's bit, but he was so spot on. Basically, when people don't understand science, they can be led in so many different ways.
We have many publications that are dedicated to promoting the cause of climate change and radical action on climate change. So that's okay, is it? It's okay to be a propagandist for one side, but if one is a critic or skeptic about some of these issues, that's not okay.
And so what you've just disclosed is the fundamental problem that the company you work for and its friends in politics like Trump and others have turned this issue of physics into an issue of values or identity. Now, saying that you believe or disbelieve in global warming is like saying you believe or disbelieve in gravity. You've turned something that should be a question of engineering and economics into undiluted ideology and idiocy, and we are paying the price in delayed action to address global warming. And your employer, Paul, has got a huge share of the blame for this. It is a shocking legacy.
I think you exaggerate the impact that we have.
That's what Rupert always used to say to me. He'd say, we don't have a very big audience. We're not that influential. Talk to Lachlan. Look, I've had all of that flannel for years. The reality is News Corp and Murdoch have done enormous damage to Western democracy and in particular to the United States and Australia, and in particular on the subject of global warming. You know, we had 12 million hectares of our country burnt last summer, and your newspapers were saying it was all the consequence of some arsonists. And James Murdoch was so disgusted, he dissociated himself from the family business. Now, what does that tell you? How offensive,
This is literally an establishment person. Like Malcolm Turnbull, it was a previous prime minister of Australia.
How destructive does it have to be, Paul, before you will say, one of our greatest writers and journalists, it's enough, I'm out of it? I mean, how long will you keep apologising?
How dare you, Malcolm, how dare you start telling me what I should do in terms of my career?
I'm asking you to speak
and
up.
lecture me about what moral position I should take.
How dare I do it? I dare to do it. And I'm saying to you, Paul, it is about time that people that work for the Murdoch organisation speak up and say publicly what they say privately. Speak up and do what James Murdoch had the courage to do, and clearly too many of the employees do not.
Like literally, like the point about turning science into ideology. I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm actually making a TikTok, a short video about this. But the reality is that it's like COVID. COVID doesn't care about your politics. It will kill you. Climate change doesn't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. It's going to kill you. Doesn't care. Hurricanes, tornadoes, droughts. Doesn't fucking give a fuck what your political ideology is. So, yeah. Yeah, anyways. This is kind of cynically where I'm at.
What is it about society that disappoints you so much?
Oh, I don't know. Is it that we collectively thought Steve Jobs was a great man, even when we knew he made billions off the backs of children? Or maybe it's that it feels like all our heroes are counterfeit. The world itself's just one big hoax, spamming each other with our running commentary bullshit, masquerading as insight, or social media faking as intimacy. Or is it that we voted for this? Not with our rigged elections, but with our things, our property, our money. I'm not saying anything new. We all know why we do this, not because Hunger Games books makes us happy, but because we want to be sedated. Because it's painful not to pretend. Because we're cowards. Type.
Elliot, you're not saying anything. What's on?
Nothing.
When I saw that, I was just like, that's a fucking good point. I get to feeling like this a lot, so much of the world is just fucking hypocrisy, and it's the people that get fucked the hardest are silenced, and the people that just want to be comfortable. Those are the people that have the platforms, that have the engagement with power. I mean, and when you're talking about this, 88% agree with this. Majority of Democrats support Medicare for all, but it doesn't mean anything. Nancy Pelosi doesn't support it. She's the leader of the party. Joe Biden doesn't support it. He's the leader of the party. I just sit there and go, what the fuck? But at the same time, you have to understand that this doesn't mean anything. This isn't good news. This isn't, oh my God, we're all saved. This is just a footnote. People support it. The Congress will not. And so much of shit like this revolves around context. I follow a creator called The Open Bookshelf. Her name's Abby on TikTok. And she posted this.
Yo, I think that's the best one. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Yo, I think that's the best one. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
So she said, that you can praise China and at the same time acknowledge that the regime is authoritarian. And then she posted this one as well.
So I know I always tell people to come with sources, but this is a very brief post about why you should also come having challenged those sources before you reference them.
And I'm going to read these tweets. The Economist, and this is from Stuart Gilmore, Dr. Stuart Gilmore. I followed him after this. But it says, The Economist is publishing a regularly updated model of excess deaths due to COVID, which is being used to tell just so stories about countries The Economist doesn't like. Let's talk about the dangers of using machine learning for analysis.
Pause to read.
When you don't have the data. Before we do, let's just take a moment to appreciate the deep racism of this picture from a report using the Economist numbers by the Center for Strategic and International Studies. When you see a cover pic like this, you can guess where the contents are going to be. Having seen who is using the data, I almost just tried scrolling on the video. Having seen who is using this data and hazard a wild guess at why, let's look at some results. First, let's compare the UK and Vietnam. According to The Economist, Vietnam had nearly as many excess deaths due to COVID as the UK, despite containing the virus for a year.
There's more.
Since the 1st of August 2021, when Vietnam's outbreak began, it has never once had more daily cases than the UK. Yet this country with this epidemic experience is supposed to have had as many deaths as the UK. The Economist believes that China has had as many excess deaths as the USA. This is simply not credible. It is not possible that China would have an epidemic on that scale and nobody would know. The data is simply wrong. So how is it possible the Economist got it so wrong, and why would they publish it anyway? The answer to this question is also relevant to other projects that aim to estimate health data where the data is missing. It's like the global burden disease studies.
We're very nearly there.
The Economists have limited data sources. They use complete mortality data from the Human Mortality Database and the World Mortality Database, but these only cover about 110 countries. They don't have anything for China or Vietnam, for example. They build a massive model based on data to estimate what is true excess mortality, might be using the machine learning method called gradient boosting. They predict deaths in countries based on the countries with data. So it's like an exchange.
This is the last one.
For example, using data on COVID tests per person, positivity rates, human development indices, etc., they can guess what deaths might be in countries without detailed death data. Gradient boosting selects the best variables in their effectiveness. This has a huge and simple problem. You can't apply relations that exist in countries with full pandemics to countries where COVID is contained. A model can't tell that the low testing rate in China is because of no cases. It will assume under-testing. They seem to have included some index of political freedom from Freedom House, but failed to include any variable indicating whether the country actually has a COVID epidemic. Hence, the model assumes China and Vietnam are underdiagnosing. This is a simple, bad and simple error.
Yeah, this is what I mean when I say that there's no such thing as objective fact in politics.
And that's true. There is no objective truth when it comes to politics. And so much of this is important in the context. And this is somebody, when it comes to China, that I respect a lot because she's lived in China, and that's her degree. She has lived and worked in China, so I tend to trust people on the ground better than I do think tanks in fucking Washington, D.C. that have an agenda. I mean, because this is what happens in basically in the United States.
People tend to flee their own countries to escape U.S. foreign policy. The foreign policy that demands we sanction, embargo, coup, or bomb every left-leaning country because capitalism can't seem to function when smaller nations nationalize their own natural resources. We're already authoritarian.
Well, and the point that she was saying about China being authoritarian, I thought this played along with that perfectly. Because someone said, you are a communist, so your solution is to be authoritarian, even though you will never admit it.
We're already authoritarian. We systemically brutalize and oppress people of color. We make people work longer and harder hours than ever before for less pay. We have the largest prison population on the planet ever. We have literal concentration camps filled with refugees just trying to find a better life. We're already authoritarian. We need to take that authority away from those in power and take back the means of production and the resources being leveraged against us and use them to make a better world and a habitable planet for our children.
This is what when I think of this, I'm like, there's this sheen of we have democracy, but we don't. Because the political process is built on top of donors. I mean, it's been a while ago, but, and I'm not going to play any of it, but Planet Money, they did a show on congressional influence. Yeah, this is from 2012, and it's old, but if you go listen to it, most Americans would be shocked, not surprised, shocked if they knew how much time a U.S. senator spends raising money. There are special call centers across the street from the Capitol where senators and congressmen sit, often for hours a day, calling potential donors to ask for money. And lawmakers and their staffs are constantly trying to find lobbyists to organize fundraisers. For the most part, these are much more mundane than the fancy black tie galas you sometimes hear about in the news. Take a look at this invitation for Tim Bishop, a Democrat from New York. It's a restaurant called Johnny's Half Shell. Costs $500 to $2,500. Time 8:30 a.m. 8:30 a.m. is not glamorous, and a lot of these fundraisers happen at breakfast. Here's another invitation, this one for a Republican candidate, Steve Daines of Montana. It's at the offices of the Associated General Contractors of America, a big trade group in town. Imagine 15 people eating appetizers in a conference room. Not glamorous. And a congressional watchdog group called the Sunlight Foundation collects these invitations to fundraisers and puts them online. We crunched some of the numbers. Here's a breakdown of fundraisers by category, and then, but you should listen to the actual show because it's phenomenal. That's an abridged version. Go listen to this. If you want to know how it works in Washington, this is literally, they are ruled by people that give them money, not the votes. What they do is take that money that they get from the lobbyists and they make commercials with that just press buttons in the voters. But they don't actually. Jordan Joan P says, wait, America is authoritarian? Always has been. Yeah, there's a certain amount. There's, like I said, there's this sheen of, oh, we're a democracy. And it's just false. People are led by these campaigns, of these propaganda campaigns that are filled with lies and inaccuracies and untruths. They're lies. So voting blue no matter who isn't gonna like change a lot. And there's things that are happening like climate change that are gonna change the world. And this black box politics again.
This is a very good question, and I'm going to do my best to answer it.
It says, etc. Like, if there was a candidate who could try to relieve some of the struggle, why not select them?
It is just my opinion, but I also think that if you listen to the song Hook by Blues Traveler, it would explain it better than I ever could.
So let's have a look. He's talking about Blues Traveler. Lyrics. It doesn't matter what I say, so as long as I sing with inflection that makes you feel, I'll convey some inner truth or vast reflection. But I've said nothing so far, and I keep it up for as long as it takes. And it doesn't matter who you are. If I'm doing my job, it's your resolve that breaks. Because the hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. There is something amiss. I am being insincere. In fact, I don't mean any of this. Still, my confession draws you near. To confuse the issue, I refer to familiar heroes from long ago. No matter how much Peter loved her, without the pan refused to grow. What that hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook brings you back. On that you can rely. Suck it in, suck it in, suck it in. If you're Rin Tin Tin or Annie Boylan, make a desperate move or else you'll win. And then begin to see when you're doing what you're doing to me, this MTV is not for free. It's so PC, it's killing me. So desperately I sing to thee of love, but also of rage and hate and pain and fear of self. And I can't keep these feelings on the shelf. I've tried when no, in fact, I lied. Could be financial suicide, but I've got too much pride inside to hide or slide. I'll do as I'll decide and let it ride until I've died. Then only then shall I abide this tide of catchy little tunes, of hip 3-minute ditties. I want to bust all your balloons. I want to burn all your cities to the ground. I found I will not mess around until I play, then hey, I will go on all day. Hear what I say. I have to pray and pray. That's really what all this was. And when I'm feeling stuck in need of buck, I don't rely on luck. The hook brings you back. I ain't telling you no lie. The hook, on that you can rely. So basically it's saying, nah, it's about the hook. And that's what voting is about. It's about the hook. It's about the political hook that gets you to vote for someone that's not going to change anything, that's not going to change the material conditions that you live with. But still, you keep on. I mean, and when it comes to China too, Bog Witch had a good post about it as well.
You want to go to war against China in the name of a democracy you don't have. What you have is a consumerocracy. You don't have a democracy. Your people don't feel alive to a project. Just when the Chinese feel like they've come alive to a project, you call that life authoritarianism. You call that life authoritarianism. Who puts its journalists in jail? Why is Julian Assange in Belmarsh? Why are so many Indian activists and journalists in jail? Why is the Enforcement Directorate in India knocking at the door of journalist houses? How easy it is for these countries to sit on some abstract definition of democracy and criticize 1.4 billion people who are in the middle of a giant experiment.
And I think that is on totally on point. Totally on point. I think that wraps it up in a nice little fucking bow. But anyways, that's all I got for tonight. I don't have a comedy section tonight because honestly, we just did a show on Wednesday and Wednesday? Anyways. I ain't got nothing for you. That's funny. Sorry. Except for this. And I think I already played it, but it made me laugh.
So I be trying to get myself a man, and I just want to know from you youngins, is this something I should be doing? Or should not be doing? Because this explains a lot.
I'm going to end with a fart joke, essentially. Thank you all for coming. By the way, Jonathan's not here tonight, but I'm sure he's going to be on Social Justice Alchemy tomorrow, and you can be there. And I don't know if I'll be there. Last few weeks, my partner's off on Sundays. That's something that's that bothers me, but she only gets one day off a week. But it makes me realize that things, I mean, that's something I was, I help support someone that's trans in Brazil who's trying to get out of an oppressive situation. And she was saying that she was thanking me. And I was just like, I'm not doing this because I want you to be thankful. I don't want you to thank me. And she's like, if you ever need anything and I can help you and I'm in a position, I'm like, I don't want that. That's what I have a partner for, you know? I don't need her support. What I want her to do is learn how, once she has the ability, because I have the means to improve her material conditions. Once she has the ability to do that and can do that for other people within the trans community in Brazil, that is what I want. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because at the end of the day, I know that I have privilege. I have monetary privilege. I have work privilege. Jesus Christ. Oh. I'm so tired of these people coming into fucking chat, man. Like, even when they're blocked, I don't know what's going on here. It's annoying. Anyways. Social Justice Alchemy. Oh my God. Oh my God. I just opened Twitter and I saw this. Dave Silverman. Rittenhouse is innocent, and everyone who isn't depending on CNN for their news knows I'm right. This was a travesty. His assailants were violent armed thugs, and I'm glad they're dead. We're better off with dead thugs, even if they're leftists. Bye, dead thugs. Yeah. There's an example of somebody that basically got called out by leftists on their sexist ways and decided to take their grift to the right. Yeah. Anyways. Thomas Sword says, hey, mutuals whom I've seen argue Rittenhouse should be acquitted. This lump of canine excrement is also on your side. What the fuck? Oh, God. And Ina, she posted this. Look at this. Some things never change. We still have comedians whining about minorities. Comics Life. But Jack says Americans are losing their sense of humor. No longer will anyone laugh at himself. Minority groups carry chips on their shoulders, and since the majority is nothing but a collection of minorities, this makes life rough for the comedian. Blackface comedy, a traditional American form of humor, is unfashionable now, and there's not a single top blackface comic left in the business. Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyways. Yeah, that's hilarious. Anyways, yeah, so hopefully some of this stuff I'll have for content for the next Tea Party. But in the meantime, like I said, if you want to help out, Jordan, Joan P. David Silverman, you mean Sam Harris. You're so funny. I see. I don't even know how these people are getting through. Like, I don't know how they're getting through. Like, it's got to be a bot. But anyways, you all have a good night and join us on Social Justice Alchemy tomorrow. I'll be there if I can. I'll definitely be watching the show at some point. So follow all my friends over at Social Justice Alchemy, and y'all have a good night. Peace.
Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified when we go live. You're listening to The Tea Party, part of the Trans FM radio network.